Welcome to this special presentation of Kelman Duran, very special guest who's visiting Barcelona. He is from the Dominican Republic but currently lives and works in Los Angeles. His music is a fiery fusion of Afro-Caribbean rhythms with a political bent. It has been described as apocalyptic reggaeton. One of the main inspirations for his music is the Haitian Revolution, which had a huge impact on his debut album of ethereal reggaeton, 1804 Kids, an album he made in a week. For his second album, he spent an entire year making it and was enthusiastically received by music critics all over the world. Welcome, Kelman Duran.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
We got a studio audience and everything here with us. Kelman, you've been to Barcelona quite a few times to perform, haven't you?
This is my second time actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you rank the local audiences here in comparison to other places that you spun around the world?
To be honest, Spain shows me the most love out of any place I've played. Yeah, it's like the most enthusiasm and a lot of screams, which I don't really get that much when I go around.
Really?
Yeah. Like last time I played in Madrid was pretty crazy, and last time I played here, and I forgot what it was for Club Marabou. There was a lot. I mean, as soon as I stepped on stage, people were screaming for this song. This song I kind of actually don't like, but people were like screaming like, please play it. So that was really special. That's never happened to me before.
Well, the first time you DJ'd in your life, apparently, you opened your set with Notorious B.I.G.'s Suicidal Thoughts. Why that song?
To tell you the truth, I don't remember if I opened with it. I think that might have been like a mistranslation in one of the press, but that was one of the first albums I think I ever listened to. But it was a cappella of that song, so there was no beat. It was just kind of the lyrics. And it was actually the first hip hop album that I listened to through and through when I was a kid, and it kind of just stuck with me.
Well, you sample the same song on 13th Month, on the song of your album 13th Month, Gravity Waves. That song kind of speaks about suicide. Is it something that you're very interested in making music about?
Well, as you know, I go to this reservation in South Dakota. It's called Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and they have the highest suicide rate in America. They have actually a state of emergency for teens. And I think going there kind of, I mean, that album was inspired by going to that reservation. So yeah, I don't want to say I do like suicide prevention music, but maybe that's what that song points to.
What drew you to spend time and create so much? Because you're making a movie about your experience at this reservation. What is it that drew you to this topic or these people, shall we say?
I went to art school in Los Angeles, and I think I was a bit disillusioned with what the community of the art world was, and I wanted to find a place that gave me like a lifelong work and a lifelong project. I didn't want to be one of these people that just goes from making a movie about one population, making other, and not really spending time with them. It's almost like we just go take images from them, never show it to them. And I just kind of wanted to create a different relationship with them. And the first time I went, they kind of just looked at me like who are you? And then they kind of just treated me like family. After every time I kept going back, the bond just got stronger. So I don't really know what drew me to there, to tell you the truth. It was just one of those things that I was just like, yeah, I'm out of school. Before I have to get a job, let me drive. Let me just drive through America, and yeah, that's where. Yeah, I mean, it's a trip. It's a beautiful place, but it's very, very difficult.
Do you consider America your home now? I mean, sorry, the United States of America your home?
Fuck, man. That's crazy. You know, I wish I could say no, but I consider LA my home. LA is the place that gave me the output to to create that kind of music, but I'm also kind of out. I don't know if its time is coming to an end. My home in America, to tell you the truth. I probably shouldn't say that on the radio, but yeah, I like to move. Cause I like to leave, to tell you the truth.
Because I understand you've also lived in South Korea for a while.
Yeah.
What were you doing? What were you doing in South Korea?
I was teaching English like most Americans. I was also married.
Married?
Yeah, I was married before. And yeah, I was just teaching English, and then my ex-mother-in-law she was like, "You look unhappy having a job." She was like, "Just quit your job and just become an artist." And I was like, "Oh, this lady's fucking crazy." And she was like, "Yeah, just make movies. Just start making movies." So she's the one that kind of just was like 0 or 100 kind of. Like either do it or don't do it. So which I think was really bad advice. But
really? Why?
I mean, I like lived on the floor for like years.
Yeah, but everyone always says, pursue the dream of being creative, and no matter what, and sleeping on sofas, DIYing it.
For sure. But I think after a while, that kind of romantic view of living takes a toll on you emotionally and psychologically. And sometimes I wonder if it was worth it. But sitting here right now, I could tell you that I'm glad I did it that way. But there was definitely times where I questioned that decision, for sure.
Kelman, what do you look for in music?
I think what I really respect from artists is when they are just themselves and they force people to learn their own language, and that for them it's deeper than visibility or publicity, and that they're invested in their own art, and that's, to me, I think that's like the most interesting part about things, and I feel like that's, I don't know, there's a way that when someone, it's like learning a new word or something, or learning like a new way of walking, and for me that's really important when I see other artists do that. But to tell you the truth, I'm just learning as I go along, to tell you the truth. So go ahead.
Do you think it's fair when certain journalists might describe your music as being gloomy?
Yeah, here's the thing. I guess when you say like somebody's music is dark, right? Dark for me is and I think I've probably said this before, is a shade, it's a color. It's not really an emotion. And I think that there's a conflation in language where that happens. And I think it also depends on like what people's politics are and how they're raised. Like, somebody could say that music is dark, but it's just not dark. It just is what it is. Like when you say about suicide, yeah, some people could say it's a dark topic, it's a somber topic, but it just is what it is. It's an epidemic, and it needs to be talked about, and that's it. It's not, yeah, it's sad when people go, but it's like, that's just kind of what it is. My problem really is that when people meet me, they're like, "Oh, you're not as dark as you pretend to be, or you're not as mysterious as you pretend to be." I remember there was a journalist that came to one of our parties and was like, "Oh, you guys are not as mysterious as I thought you would be. You guys are actually really nice and really down to earth." And I'm just like, also, it's kind of like, it's really hard to define someone's interior self. And yeah, maybe I am a bit gloomy sometimes, and that's just what it is. But that's like, and me personally, I don't ever want to give someone an adjective like, "Oh, you're a dark person," or "You're a gloomy person." I'd rather just experience that person without necessarily having to give them an adjective all the time. And to me, these kind of adjectives are a bit annoying sometimes.
Yeah, the judgmental kind of attitudes. No?
Yeah, it's just like, just experience someone. You don't necessarily have to always put them in a category. It's just like, over time you'll develop a bond, or you won't.
Well, you know, us professionals, our job is to share new music with audiences, and sometimes we have to resort to gimmicky phrases to sum up a body of work. I'm afraid I have used the tag, the Caribbean Burial. Please don't hold it against me, okay?
No, not at all, man. I'm honored to say the truth. I mean, Burial is one of the gods of music, so.
So was he a strong inspiration for you when you were years ago when you heard Untrue or
No.
No?
No, I mean, I love Burial and I love his music. I think a lot of people, and here's the thing, I don't want to offend someone. I think the reason why some journalists do that is to place my context in a European context, and it somehow, when you say that, it validates my music. And for me, that's actually a problem, because I've heard some people say, "Oh, I've never taken reggaeton seriously until I heard you," and that's not a compliment, you know. So it's kind of like I don't necessarily want to be incorporated into that music. I kind of just, like I said, like I just want to have my own language, and if people like it, then it's cool. I love Burial, and I mean, one of the greatest producers. But I think the reason why people do that is because they think of us as like these kids who sit in a room by themselves, just kind of like making music. He has a huge output, and I think also, like, because of the amount of stuff that I put out, I think people say that. But I think it also has to do with the form of the music, not necessarily the content. I think he also takes things out of context and creates a new context. Like I remember joking, like, that song Archangel is a Ray J sample. I don't know if Burial knows who Ray J is. I mean, maybe he does. Maybe he just bought the record, but I don't think because it's not, Ray J's not someone that I would sample just because of
Ray J, Kim Kardashian's ex?
Yeah, that's a Ray J sample. That's a Ray J song. Yeah, it's kind of like, you're like, does Burial listen to Ray J, or was it just the words that matter to him? And to me, it's literally, it doesn't matter. It's just the words that matter. So I don't have a problem sampling Wisin and Yandel or something really corny, like, I don't know. What's a really corny song that I've sampled recently? Not a really corny song. Days Go By Dirty Vegas. You remember that song? It was a car commercial. It was a car commercial back when I was a kid. It's just a techno song, and I sampled it, and someone was like, "You listen to Dirty Vegas?" And I was like, "No, I like the lyrics, you know." So it's kind of like this thing about taking things and putting it into a new context. So I guess that's all. That's a lot about that. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny because you know, much like Burial, you recontextualize these samples, right? He would draw on Ray J or rave culture as well, and R&B, whereas you take more of these Caribbean kind of hooks, shall we say, and singing verses. Can you go a bit more deep? I mean, how important is context in music to you?
I'm also guilty of incorporating or appropriating things, and I think, for example, ever since I started listening to, I don't know how to say Kum from Durban, from South Africa.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun trying to pronounce that.
I think it's called Kum. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta make a strange movement with the tongue, but Kum. Yeah.
But when you slow it down, and you put a reggaeton beat, it doesn't skip a beat. You know, it actually it feels like reggaeton, and a lot of the songs, some of the songs on 13th Month heavily sample Gom. So easily, I'm pretty sure that there's some producers over there like, who the fuck does this kid think he is? You know, just taking our tracks and slowing them down and putting them to reggaeton. But I guess really what I'm trying to do is maybe try and make certain connections between the type of legacy that the diaspora, the African diaspora, has left for us, and really try and do that back. It's not like, because I mean, a lot of people, I remember one time I was in Madrid, in Matadero, in a talk, and somebody was talking about techno, and they were like, "We're done. Like, that's bourgeois music. We don't really need to talk about techno anymore." And I understood them, because techno parties are really expensive. Usually it's just really rich white boys with really expensive hats on, and yeah, but techno that's not what techno is, you know. But that's what a lot of people think it is, and it's not like, oh, they call it white music. That's not true at all. But it's perceived as that now. So my reason for sampling some of these artists is kind of like, well, this is the heritage that was left behind for me that I'll never be able to reclaim. I'm not one of those person that believes that, oh, you got to go back to Africa if you really want to be like that. No, it's really complicated. There's tons of variables that go into how we've become and what kind of music we make, and I kind of want to just be transparent about that. So it's also like I'm also learning, I'm also appropriating, and there's a mix of this kind of legacy that's left behind us, that was left for us, that is European and African, etc. But at a certain point, you have to kind of choose what direction you want to go in. So I think I chose reggaeton because when I first started reggaeton, I remember when I used to be in Mexico, like, oh, reggaeton is muy naco, which is a really classist word to say. It's a disgusting word. Oh, reggaeton es muy naco. Now you go to Mexico, the biggest clubs are reggaeton clubs in Mexico, you know, and it's because they also found that eroticism, that like really visceral feeling about, you know, because in a lot of countries people don't dance together, you know. It's in el perreo, it's like Caribbean, you know. So I think a lot of places are discovering this kind of attitude and this really like corporeal that not only feels good, but it's like, well, I'm discovering something new about my body.
But incidentally, are you good at perreo? You know, that's a question that if you ask any female artist now, finally journalists stop doing it, but you'd get into a lot of hot water because
you know what cuando yo era un chiquillo, I was growing up really fast, let's just say.
Yeah.
Ahora, if I'm sober, I can dance. Yeah, but if I'm fucked up, I'm kind of really shy.
It's because I would never dare ask Ivy, not Ivy Queen, obviously, but I don't know. It just became a thing in Spain, like where, you know, these dudes would ask a female actresses or whatever, ¿te gusta perrear? It became a thing, you know, like, oh, would you stop with the question, you know? But it's funny because you have this sort of serious persona, and I'm just trying to imagine. You're getting wild.
Sí.
I mean, not that I'm laughing at the whole thing, but it's funny because this didn't just happen in Mexico. In Spain, the history of reggaeton, as I say, it's where reggaeton has had a lot of its most enthusiastic audiences, but there's been a lot of snobbery from music journalists, from, you know, people looking down on it because even worse, they called it prostitute music because it's the music that would always be playing in the roadhouses and the brothels, right? So people would be like, oh, that's, in Mexico they say it's muy narco, no, here it's like, it's the tacky music, it's ghetto music, like it's. But now it's this, as you said, it's the same. It's like high fashion. Everyone's like drawing on urbano, on the Caribbean rhythms and stuff. What about the U.S.? Was it always like that? When, you know, you've been there since you were 5?
No. I mean, I was one of those immigrant kids that was like the last generation, really, because Dominicans started moving like in los 80s, in the 80s. So when I came over, I was 5. I was pretty much became like a New York City kid. And I remember being young when you see people off the boat, be like, oh, I mean, look at those spics. Like, we would use words like that. We would discriminate against our own people who were coming from the islands. And when I grew up and I started and I realized that, I mean, I would walk down the street and some people would be like, hey, Daddy Yankee. Like, to make fun of you. Yeah. You know, like, it wasn't a cool thing. Now Daddy Yankee's gone. Nobody says stuff like that because it makes money. But before, when there was just underground, people be like, hey, Tego, Daddy Yankee, like, just to make fun of you. Now, reggaeton, I think it still has some. I wouldn't be able to tell you because I don't really listen to that stuff. But I read an article the other day on Double XL, an old article, and they were literally saying, these Latinos with the reggaeton is gonna take over. We need to build a wall. This is when reggaeton was taking over in New York, and it's really surprising. It's really surprising. And now you see people like Skrillex haciendo dembow, and they call it tropical house. You know, it's like, yeah. And it's like, oh, boy, that Justin Bieber song, that's a dembow track. You're kind of confused, and you're like, when did this? And this is the problem that I have. It's kind of like they make a more easily digestible form of it, and then it's like this becomes okay, but then this becomes not okay. And that's really where I really start having like issues with it.
Okay, it's funny. One of our colleagues who was just on stage before, Aida Camproví, she was saying like how J Balvin is like la cara amable del reggaeton para los indies.
Sí,
¿no?
it's true.
And when he was announced at Primavera Sound's lineup, it was like, well, you could expect. Everyone was like, what the hell is reggaeton doing at... Same thing as when Jay-Z headlined Glastonbury all those years ago. Noel Gallagher was like, "Oh, hip-hop shouldn't be on a main stage at Glastonbury." Duh. Shut up, old man. You know, that rolled over. And yes, it's breaking the doors down. So how does that make you, now that reggaeton is very much accepted and it's making money and it's popular, how is that affecting you as a musical artist? Do you want to continue in your style, or are you kind of thinking of moving ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why after 1804 Kids, I was like, I don't want to be the reggaeton boy. I don't want to be that kid that museums call when a black artist has a show. So I think that's when I did 13th Month, I was like, well, I'm gonna deconstruct it a little bit, but I'm gonna still keep some of the references. And now I think hopefully I have a new album coming out this year, and I've kind of come to terms with the first one and the second one, so it's kind of a mix of both. But at first, I mean, 1804 Kids is pretty basic, at least to me. It's just a kind of very straightforward. It's I would say it's a reggaeton album, but it has like a gloomier side to it.
When you perform, what would you feel comfortable being described as? Because you know how it's always either on lineups, it's either DJ or live. You know?
You know, when I was last time I played in London, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and somebody was like, they were like, "You're not really a DJ," and I was like, "Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it doesn't really matter." But it was the first time somebody told me, "You're not a DJ," and I think it has to do with the format. Like, I guess I play on Ableton Live, so I'm clicking clips. So if I fuck up, you're gonna hear it. If the music stops, it's because I made a mistake. And for me, I guess it's just more fun than... I could make my life a bit easier, but I think it's just more fun for me doing that way. And it sometimes I play stuff I've never practiced before, so it becomes interesting in that way. But am I a DJ? Yeah, because I have to be concerned with the audience. But I'm not gonna lie, I have emptied dance floors before, on purpose, and probably just out of anger. Just because it was like a top 40 club, and they just invited me because they thought I had a name and they thought I would bring people. And then when I got there, they were like, "Can you play something happier?" Was literally what they said, and I was like, "No." And the dance floor cleared, and I think I kind of ruined that whole night, basically. And I didn't apologize for it, because I was like, you obviously didn't know what I play or what kind of music I did. So I would say I'm a bit of both, to say the truth. But a lot of DJs don't produce, which I found really surprising, because I guess I was a bit. I never went out. Hardly ever went out, and I literally was introduced to the club scene maybe at 29, 30. Was the first time I think I really went out, and it was a total freedom show. So when I saw this person play, I was like, Jesus, like, how is it that someone can just really play whatever they want and be concerned with the audience at points, and then not be concerned with the audience? It was really like a performance, and I was like, that's what I want to do. So I guess that was my introduction to it, and then I kind of took it from there, and I guess I took it too literally, because I've definitely had some shows where people have been sleeping.
But most famously, you went back to Santo Domingo and performed at what was it called, Colonia Zona Colonial?
Yeah.
And how did it feel like to go back to your homeland and not get the reception that you expected playing your music?
I mean, to tell you the truth, I'm gonna tell you a joke. One of my friends, she's Dominican, she's like, "Kelman, por favor no toque Tra de Don Chesina." Like, la gente say, like, people are gonna laugh at you. And of course I played it, but definitely I remember this journalist being there, and she was like, when you were playing, I could hear people being like, "¿Qué es esto?" Like, ¿qué lo que está haciendo? You know. And I think, yeah, and I guess I'm probably gonna get some bad DMs for this, but Dominican Republic has a terrible psychosis with colonialism, where we want to be American so bad, and we value what is American and what's white so bad. And honestly, maybe it was my fault. Maybe I just played in the wrong place. But I was really surprised and taken aback by it, because I felt like other countries everywhere I went, people were being very receptive to it, and I come back home after years, and it's kind of like literally the worst show I've ever played. So it was a bit disconcerting. And I probably should have just played in some barrio, in some ghetto, but it's like there's no real promoters for that stuff, you know. It's like si conoces a alguien. So
You never clear samples, right?
no.
And nowadays, where
You
you know,
get
because
in
before
trouble.
you could get away with a lot of it, you just kept in the underground. But now that internet gets music everywhere, and you find your music appearing in places you'd never expect, the sampling thing is getting a lot of people into trouble, right? Has that ever been a problem to you?
Yeah. I've had to get a lawyer for one specific track. That they were like, he was basically like, you're fucked. So basically, the only thing you can do is just take a huge amount of money for a sync. That's when it becomes a problem. I think everything else, they kind of allow it. But also, I mean, because of the internet, if you change some algorithms, iTunes, Spotify, they won't really catch it. For example, Say de la Mañana, when you Shazam it, it says Kelman Duran. It doesn't say Nicky Jam or Daddy Yankee. So it's kind of, that was really surprising to me. I was like, whoa, it should say Nicky Jam and Daddy Yankee, but it doesn't. I hope that I don't get in trouble, because I live in LA and the copyright laws are really grave there. But to tell you the truth, I think, I don't know what to say. Say the truth.
But you're okay with other people, for instance, sampling you and not giving your
I that's what I hope for. The problem was when I first started, I thought I was making remixes, and then this other DJ was like, oh, you make edits, and I was like, oh, is that what I do? So then the albums just became edit albums, obviously. But I don't get offended when people take my music and do what they want with it, but I do know that there's some artists who really is like, yeah, I don't want to be sampled. When I do it, it's out of respect. It's not really out of, like, when I sample, I'm very conscious of who I'm taking from and why. So, but yeah, I don't. For some reason, I thought I'd have more problems, but I haven't. I really haven't come up on it. The one song that ever got taken offline was a Don Omar song, surprisingly. Yeah, that I made an edit for, and I was like, really, dude?
Because he's on Universal, right?
He's on Universal.
Yeah.
So
when you mess with the big boys.
Yeah. So I was really surprised. I was like, damn, really? Like, not even Drake, bro. Like, so.
Well, I can't help but I just my colleagues Mark and Ben have this incredible joke which I can't stop repeating, and I think it brings us to almost the end of this interview. Why do anarchists drink herbal infusions?
I don't know.
Because property is theft. Property. So this means so the reason I put that joke in is because, do you think we're getting to that utopia where musicians and artists, just as they're doing, upload music onto internet for people to enjoy without paying for it? You know, do you think music should be a commodity? Do you think it's going well?
I mean, I guess I would agree with the anarchists on this point, but the artists who, and I can say this from one experience, the artists who pretend to be extremely liberal and progressive are some of the people that go at you really hard when you touch their music. and it's really sad, because it shows a disconnection between their art and their life. It's like it's almost separate somehow. But are we reaching a point? Yeah, I mean, like, I think from experienced DJs, people are looking more towards club culture and DJ culture for what's coming next. And I think they're starting to realize that sampling and references and stuff like that is going to come back. The reason that it's not as popular anymore is because the big record industries want to make more money. And those people want to make more money. They don't want to give publishing to certain people. But I don't know. Also, the sounds are just, for me, the sounds are just more interesting. It's like, why would I try to create something new when it's already there? And I think the same goes for objects. It's just like, why would you always want to create new chairs and new sofas when you can just, we have tons of them already, you know? When they get old and fucked up, then yeah, it's like, it doesn't kind of make sense.
Well, Kelman, I wish we had more time, but I really want to give you some time to perform live for us here in our studio. So we're going to put some more music to give you some time to prepare for a bit of live Kelman Duran.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.